Happy Friday, everyone. I realized that when I do these videos, I've never really introduced myself or what these videos are about or what I'm trying to accomplish. I know a lot of YouTubers will do that. So I'm Addison. I've been a web designer developer since around the late 90s, 98, 99. Uh, through today, I still do it for a living. I love it very much. And I always wanted to kind of share fun things that I discover along the way, or dig into some obscure stuff, some not so obscure stuff. But, you know, of late, it's all things WordPress, but it may not be WordPress. It may just be web development kind of stuff. Today, though, we're going to do somewhat of a deep dive into custom fields, and more specifically, how GeneratePress and GenerateBlocks, really GenerateBlocks, incorporates them, and how you can tap into that power, so to speak. So when I first started, I was using, I was honestly building things from scratch with PHP and MySQL, really by the seat of my pants. The first content management system I kind of discovered and implemented was Text Pattern, which is still in use. I think that led to Expression Engine. Expression Engine led to Statamic. And then eventually I fought using WordPress. I didn't like it. I saw all the theme stuff, and WordPress felt like it was like Expression Engine and Statamic. I felt like they were frameworks waiting to be used. However, I, as the designer developer, chose to use them. It didn't try to force me into a way of thinking. And I felt like WordPress was that way. And once I got into it and learned more about it, and learned more about how the template hierarchy and the theme works, I got it. It clicked. And I felt like then WordPress was more of okay, WordPress and themes, especially GeneratePress, are kind of foundations. Kind of like, here we are. We're going to do all the basic stuff. You can still change it if you want to, but we're going to take care of all the basic stuff, and you can just add in your customizations. You can certainly make it look the way you want it to look, but we're going to add in, let you do the customizations where you want. And that was child themes, and not just that. I mean, certainly I started out making my own themes, of course, and oh my goodness, the work involved in that. But anyway, I did my homework. I landed on GeneratePress and eventually GenerateBlocks when that came out, and I haven't looked back since. So, but custom fields. Why do we need custom fields? So, a page in WordPress, or a post, or any type of content, and yes, I'm using this same site again, although we're going to build another custom post type eventually. You have a page and its content and its layout. It might have a headline, it might have an image and a button or two. But the gold standard was always to hand it to your client and let them make the edits and changes. And you wanted to separate content from styling as much as possible, so that when you handed it over to your client or whoever was going to be managing the website, as far as content is concerned, you didn't want them to have to be thinking too much about design, just content. And so you tried to build around the CMS, customize, and I say CMS, content management system, so that when the site editor went to add a piece of content, whether it be a blog post or a page or a team member or a project item / entry, whatever it may be, that they could focus on the content. So the idea usually was that you gave them kind of a database entry page. It might just be some form fields, or it is form fields. They fill them in, save it, and then you have implemented this nice templating in the back end so that the layout was beautiful and it accepted the content and it kind of filled in those holes. And, boom, you have a web page. And, things have changed quite a bit since when I was using Expression Engine and Statamic, and everyone has kind of adopted this block builder approach. Like WordPress, the Gutenberg editor. But we still have the need for custom fields. So that's what we're really going to look at now, and when you might need them, how they're saved in, or how WordPress treats them. Like when you create a custom post type, we're specifically going to be using advanced custom fields to do this. So that's what I'm looking at here. These are custom field groups that you then associate with normally a custom post type, but now blocks or taxonomies or media attachments, whatever it may be. So, gosh, there's a lot to unpack. So this video is going to be specifically about kind of some of the technical stuff. We may not get into a full-blown layout just yet, but I kind of want to show you what's happening in the database and how we can grab that data and pull it into the page in some different ways. So, where to begin? So, sorry, I'm pulling up what I'm thinking is a static page and thinking, I'm just going to show you like this tube of text that is just pasted in and formatted, but it's more than that. We were playing around with these synced patterns that can be overridden to customize fields, and that's a kind of a custom field in a way. This is a gallery that very much uses custom fields of a gallery type. We've implemented these tags to show hide things, but it's a block that can be dropped into a page. But we're more specifically going to be looking at instances like this team page. This is what WordPress would call an archive page. And we've created a custom post type called team. And each one of these, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, are each an individual entry into that custom post type. So if I go back here and look at team members, I have 3 individual entries. And if I click on one of these, I'll see that it's made up of individual custom fields of various types. So we not just have the name or the title of the post and a featured image area, which I can also customize how that's labeled. I have a title for each team member, a brief bio block, which I could have used the built-in WordPress description area, content area, editor area, but I didn't. We have a social media field consisting of a repeater. We have some related entries, so we're getting into relationships through custom fields. This could be considered a taxonomy, but I think I just did it as just ACF, Advanced Custom Fields. I'm going to say ACF instead of Advanced Custom Fields. ACF checkbox choices, and then a gallery field. And they're all different. They all store data differently. The most basic probably being just a text field. So when you save this, it stores everything in the database. And we're going to take a look real quick. So this is something older we created, but let's just take a peek at the database real quick. So I've opened up, this is post 165. Everything in WordPress has an identifier, a number, a unique number. So of all the posts, whether it be a post, a page, a weapon custom post type, an attachment, a media post type, or notification, whatever, it's going to have its very own ID. There's no other entry that has a post ID of 165. So, and I'm not going to do queries. So this is admin neo. I pulled this up using this. This is local by WP Engine. And it's kind of like PHP My Admin, very similar. So it's showing me the structure, and I'm going to look at the data. And can I... Yeah, I've never used any of this stuff, so I don't even know what I'm doing. But anyway, we're going to look for... Can I search? Oh, beautiful. ID, what did I say, 165. Okay, so there it is. An ID of 165. Let's click edit, and let's see what we get. So post ID 165, post author is 1. So that is me. I'm the user in WordPress. Remember I said everything had an ID. And I have 2 users. Let's see if I click this. I think it'll show me the ID. No, it won't. But anyway, this user, which I am logged in as me right now, has an ID of 1. So I can go to WP users and find myself. ID 1. There I am. Password. Nice name. All that stuff. Click the back button. Will it give me that query? Yes. Okay. And so let's keep going. So post content. We chose not to use post content or post excerpt. The post title is Han Solo. Here's the post status, comment status, and all this kind of stuff. Post name, that's the slug. Ping, ping, modified. Excuse me. Yeah, it keeps track of when it's edited, modified, that kind of thing. Kind of housekeeping stuff. And wait, where are the custom fields? Here's the post type. That thing. So that's kind of the dirty URL, I'll call it. We have nice clean permalinks to give us the URL that we want via the slug. So there's a separate table called post meta that stores all that custom field data. And we're going to put that in the back of our mind that this post is an entry of, or an ID of 165. So if we go look at post meta, let's look here real quick. Let's go to ACF and let's look at team member fields. Okay, and this collection of fields has a post ID of 158. And here are all our fields. Here are the names of those fields. And these are really important in advanced custom field or any custom field in WordPress, because these are how they are referenced either in the code or in GenerateBlocks. So if we go look up our post meta, okay, each meta ID, so each one of the custom fields and their associated value has a meta ID, but I think if we go, let's do that search trick again. Okay, meta key. So for the meta key, let's go look for, just look for team title. That's really easy. Paste that in there. And here we go. So our post was 165, right? That was Mr. Han Solo. So if I go to edit, we see that the ID for this particular entry, this, when we save the team title of Smuggler for Han Solo, this is the table entry that it made into the database, into WP post meta, and it gave it a unique ID of 459. It associated it with the post with an ID of 165. That is Mr. Han Solo. Let's see, can I open this in a new tab? Search ID 65. So there's Mr. Han Solo. Yep, there he is. And we save the value of smuggler. Okay, easy enough concept, right? Well, it gets a little crazier when, let's look for social media. Okay. Let's go back to post meta and search value of social media. Okay. Now what do we get? Where's 165? There's Mr. Han Solo. Wait a minute. So we just have a meta value of 3? Well, we have 3 items, but it's a repeater field. So where is that data stored? Well, let's do a little digging. So let's find all the post IDs of 165. And let's see here what we get. Okay, team social media. So we get that. And we get this underscore thing. Field. So let's go back out here to field group. So I'm pretty sure it has to do with this key. This is some stuff that Advanced Custom Fields needs to know what field group that this custom field is associated with. But here's where we get into some crazy stuff. Team social media, 0 social media platform. Well, that kind of looks like, if I go back into team member fields and look at social media, we saw that it was a repeater field. And the 2 subfields are platform and platform URL. And they have these names that we've given them so that they can be referenced. So what kind of value can this store? Well, I created a select dropdown that has SVG values associated with each option. So if I select LinkedIn, the value of it is an SVG icon. If we look at the URL, it is a URL field. So this is where it's storing that data. So an array is a value in PHP, JavaScript, and programming languages, and it generally starts with a 0. So Advanced Custom Fields, behind the scenes, the way the repeater works is that even though this is the main field, and I think it's telling me there are 3 entries for it. When I made the selections in WordPress and saved them, the repeater field under Mr. Han Solo, it created new meta keys based on the repeater field. So it started with 0 and it said, okay, under the team social media repeater, the very first item, the meta key that's labeled social media platform, store that SVG value. So there it is. I think that is the LinkedIn icon. And then we have this little bit that's needed by Advanced Custom Fields. And then we have the team social media, which is this. It's that field that happens to be a repeater. And then we're looking at the subfield called social media platform URL. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. So team social media, the very first entry, social media platform URL, and we have our LinkedIn URL. And then we go to the next one. There's one with 1. So 0 is 1, 1 is 2, and 2 is 3. Okay? So whoop, that's how it's saving those. And that means we're going to have to do something different to access that data, either in our programming or in GenerateBlocks. And GenerateBlocks does give you the means to access these things through a repeater. You can nest queries and do a post query a post meta query instead of a post query. Okay, and then we have, so this one's a little different as well. What in the world is that? So that is a serialized array. And all it really is, it's a kind of a general array. It's telling it, okay, this is the first item. S means this is a string that contains 3 characters, and here's the actual value itself, and it's quoted because it's a string. If it were an integer, this would be an I:3 instead of S:3, and this would not have quotes around it. It would just be a number. That's programming mumbo jumbo, and I'm not going to delve into all that there, but just so you know, that's what that means. So what's happening here is, what is the team proficiencies field? Let's take a look at that. Proficiencies. It's a relationship. And that's even a yet different take on it. So what this does is, oh my goodness. So we're telling it that we want to, when we're looking at Han Solo, we want to be able to, let's open up Mr. Solo again, and I'll show you. So let's scroll down to here. We have relationships. So let's say for a minute that Mr. Han Solo is also proficient at a lightsaber, and let's update that. And I think on that field, yeah, we're returning a post object. We could just return a post ID, but regardless, the database, did it update the same field? It did. So it's referencing the same field, but now we have 2 items. This is the first, I:0. This is the first time through the loop. It is a string with 3 characters, 236. And then we get I:1. Remember, it's an array, so you start with 0. 0 is 1, 1 is 2. It also is a string with 3 characters and with an ID of 234. Okay, those IDs are referencing the weapons. So blaster pistol has an ID of 236. That right there. So that's the blaster pistol. And the lightsaber has an ID of 234. And that's that. So that is how it stores those references for our relationships. And all we really need to know, or all WordPress needs to know, to go grab the data for that item, because you might be looking at it and think, well, this just has the ID. I can't do anything with that. You can do everything with the ID. If you have the ID, you have access to every bit of data included with that post. So, and you can even do it through GenerateBlocks, because you can do a nested query to that post based on that ID. I'm pretty sure I did it that way. So, yeah, this is actually a custom field, advanced custom fields, but the rest, see, lightsaber and the image. So that's just the title, and that's just a featured image. Yeah, but you can get all of that with just the ID. So now that we've kind of taken a look at that, so how do you get that data and put it into a template? Feels like a lot. Feels like you could pull your hair out trying to figure all this out. And there are days that I want to do that. My office is on the second floor, and I often want to just open the window and jump out. I'm kidding, of course, and I mean that very jokingly. So, um, 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 there are a couple of different ways you can output this data. And you've all seen the video that I did, or I say that. If you haven't, please go back and watch this video where I show you the output for these. But if we go and look at elements, so elements is generate press, but then within elements, you can use generate blocks to loop through your data. And so this is my team archive template. So you know what? I probably ought to go back to the custom post and show you that. Let me do that. So ACF allows you, for the longest time, ACF would only do custom fields. And then they added, and then, a lot of people would often, myself included, use a plugin called CPT UI to create your custom post types, your taxonomies. That stands for Custom Post Type UI. Still a very good plugin, but then Advanced Custom Fields built all of that in, so you could do it directly from that plugin. And you don't even need a plugin to do custom post types or custom fields, but ACF lets you get a lot fancier and do a lot more complex things. So anyway, so if I look at team members, when I'm creating a custom post type, down here in these advanced settings, okay, so I've ticked off the things that I want included, and custom fields is one because I believe that's how the advanced custom fields will show. They're called meta fields. Labels, you can control how everything is labeled, down to how the title field reads. Visibility, admin menu, admin bar, URLs. Let's see. Okay. Does it have an archive? So you can tell WordPress that, I'm creating a custom post type, but maybe you don't want that data accessible through a default archive. So what it's doing is I've created a custom post type, and the key, or the post name, I guess, of it in WordPress, how it's referenced is team. If I were to change this to something else, everything would be lost as far as this display and all that, because it's referencing it by team. But I can come down here and add in my own archive slug. So let's say I want to call it team members. And now I try to view team and I get nothing. We change the URL and it comes back. So you do have some control over that kind of stuff. So even if you name this key or slug something that you're not crazy happy with, and you've done a lot of work, you can come back to that and change it. But it's going to default to that URL. Now let's say I disable the archive. I'm not even quite sure what will happen. Okay, you get nothing. So what you could do in that case is you could create a page called team and include a query loop using GenerateBlocks to show the information on that page. But this is where WordPress, I guess in a way I fought with it, but it's thinking ahead. When you create a custom post type or a custom content type, Expression Engine called them channels. It's kind of a weird name, but I guess it's all encompassing. A bucket of information that you want to display. Usually you'll have a name for that bucket or that section, like team, like products, like services, like anything like a directory kind of a catalog. And then you'll have individual entries that you will put into that bucket or that section, or in this case, a custom post type. So there are posts within custom post type. Okay. So generally there is a list view of that, so you can browse them and select which one you want to view. And then there is a single view. So WordPress has templates in its template hierarchy that cover that kind of stuff. And one of them is archive. We want this to include an archive. We want, when you access that URL or that key via the URL, whether you use the Nate or the one that's, by default there by the name, or you give it a new one, it's going to open up that template. Whoop. Yeah. Sorry, we went back to team. Okay. So hopefully we're all not lost yet. We're still hanging in there. So now we've kind of gone into the nitty-gritty of the custom post type. We've looked at the fields. Now, if we go to our elements, excuse me, I'm going to open this in a new tab. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, had to get a drink of water. Okay, here we go. So this is where people start to get hung up, I think, and I completely understand why. Let's if things are working like this, here's our query. So this is an element, and we're going to do this from scratch in the next video. I'm using this to kind of walk through the steps as kind of a review, I guess. And again, that deep dive to show you in the database what these values look like and how we're getting them. And I hope it just sheds a little light on what is involved, whether you're using PHP, whether you're using GenerateBlocks, whether you're using Elementor or whatever to get at these things. I hope this sheds a little light on that. I don't know. I know a lot of times, like, I didn't care. Just make the thing work, and I get it. So this is a if you care kind of scenario, but I do think it'll be helpful. So, what kind of block is this? That's a very good question. So, GeneratePress elements let you do some really powerful things, and a lot of it comes down to choosing what type of element is this. And it could just be a simple piece of static content like a header or footer, or I don't know, something that you drop into your site on specific pages via a hook so that you can control where it appears. And we're going to use, so two of the big things that really change the game are content template and loop template. So loop template is what you think of as that listing view, that archive view. Content template is the single view. So if I click through to view Luke Skywalker, I'll have to set up a content template. I mean, in this, in your normal scenario, you'll have your loop template to browse the posts. You have your content template to view a single post that you have selected, or rather your user has selected. This is a loop template. So we're going to pull in, and we only have 3, but we're going to pull in all of the posts or a specific number of posts. And we're telling it which one we want to use by defining the location. This is a team member archive. Okay. So at this point, we go to the query block. Now, let's reset things and see how it looks, because I know one of the things with Generate Blocks is that sometimes you don't get a preview of the query, especially when you're working on an element, so that you can preview the values that you're putting in. So we told it that we want it to be a post query and we want to inherit the query from the template. But if I turn this off, you'll see that I had selected team members. And if I turn that off, it's going to go just to posts. And if I click inherit from template, it's still just going to stay on posts, even though this is set to team member archive. So I can save this and go view this. If I refresh, now that I've made those changes, it's still going to pull in the right data, because we've told it we want it to appear on the team member archive and inherit the query from the template. Now, what is this? Inherit from template. WordPress has this thing called the loop. It is, I just want to highlight the loop. The loop is everything. The loop is so ingrained in WordPress. Like it is the content. Pages use the loop. Posts use the loop. Everything uses the loop. And if we go down here, we kind of get a peek at what the loop is. So if you've ever created your own query through the WP query function, you'll have had to have done something like this. If have posts, while have posts, the post. So the post is the object of the post that you're querying. It has all the data for an individual post while it's looping through posts in the loop. And these posts could be of any kind, depending on the query, depending on the art, the location. Here's a big one. Have posts. If have posts, while there are posts, give me the post. So here's the in while else, sorry, there's nothing here. But you can do all kinds of stuff. And this is all default things. The content, the title, getting categories, taxonomies, published dates, things like that. The time. It's usually like the title, the permalink, the time, the content. That's why in advanced custom fields, I think the nomenclature for the function is the field, get field, because there's also a get title. The prefix usually outputs whatever you're calling for, whereas get fetches it and stores it, but doesn't output it. So then you'll have to run an echo or something like that if you're in PHP. So that being said, the loop is mega WordPress. The WordPress and the loop are so closely married. The loop does it all. What am I looking at? So yeah. So what we've done here is we've said we want to inherit the loop query from our archive template for team members. But somehow GenerateBlocks still doesn't know what to go fetch for a preview. And like that may be coming. That may be something that eventually we can, even though we're inheriting, it may be something really difficult to code as far as having it based on the fact that I've told the location to be team member archive, that it might go look there for a query and pull in a few posts. Elementor has a thing where you can, that may just be for their single templates. You can pick an example. But yeah, so for here, my little trick, and this seems to work, is I turn that off, go pick the post type, and then turn that back on, and it gives me a preview. And so we're doing some simple things here, and some not so simple things. So if you're getting a title or an image, I mean, it's a featured image from the current post. You can select all these things. It might be a custom field, but no, this is just the featured image. Pick the size, and it already has a list of sizes that it's generated. We can say medium. We want the URL, but we could say, no, give me the ID, or show me the caption or the description or an alt attribute. We want the URL because we're outputting an image, and we're asking, or rather, it's asking me, is this required to render? If it doesn't find anything, do you want anything to render? Like, no, because otherwise it'll render an empty image element. But we get kind of a templating language with this. I mean, not kind of, it is. So there is a tag, a dynamic tag called featured image, and we're giving it some parameters. The size is medium, and what we want it to grab or output, the key is the URL. Now you might have remembered over here this meta key. So that's kind of that reference name that we're using to ask what data we want it to pull. I guess kind of blurry with the medium. And here's a good example of a post meta this is kind of easy. This is let's look at this. Post meta key, team title, current post. Okay, so it's pulling in the fields. Oh, and one other thing that you do need to know about that is when you're doing your custom fields, the group setting, you want it to show in REST API, because GenerateBlocks uses that data in the API to fetch a list of meta keys. You don't need it, because you can just go in here and say, I'm looking for the team title, and you click that and it copies it, and you can paste it in. But it is nice to be able to just select it. Not linking it to anything, so it builds this post meta. Okay, what key? What, we know what we want it to be post meta, but what are we fetching? We're fetching the team title. So in the database, that will be stored as key team. Woo. There we go. There are 3 team titles, different post IDs. So that's how it's referencing it and getting it from the correct post. Because it asked me a couple of questions, remember? Where's the source? The current post. And the current post will be one of these post IDs depending on which item it lands on within the loop. So when it loops through first, it might get 161. Actually, it gets 165. When it loops through again, it's 163. It loops through again, it's 161. So each time when it fetches that meta key, it also looks to the post ID and then fetches the right value. Okay, but here is where it gets crazy. So now we're doing another query, a post meta query. And here's where you really just can't do it all on your own. You need something that helps it. And GenerateBlocks has this built in to handle how advanced custom fields saves arrays of data from their custom fields. So that's that weird thing we looked at. Select data. Let's look at just real quick, and then I'm going to end this because it's going on way long. Yeah, team social media. So let's search for that. So let's do like. There we go. So all like means is it contains. team social media. So it's going to give me all this stuff. So remember, we talked about how the repeater field creates these additional meta keys so that they can be referenced. GenerateBlocks has something built in to handle this, and it does it by way of a post meta query. So now it's kind of like telling GenerateBlocks that we're going to go fetch an array of things. So looper is the layout loop item. Let's see, is where we start getting. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's take a closer look at this. So we're telling it, this is a loop item. And we're using buttons, I believe, and SVG. Oh, this is the URL. Okay. So loop item, meta key. Is it smart enough? It is. Platform and URL. So we are fetching the link. So loop item is a special kind of meta key fetching. Okay. So loop item is really where is my query? Yeah. Okay. So team social media. So we've told it this is what we're fetching, and it's looking at the current post ID or the post ID of the current item in the loop. Okay. So it knows we're digging into this repeater, or this is a meta key that has an array of values. And then when we get to the value itself, and where is loop item? No background image. I was trying to remember href. That's the URL. Yeah, I even filled in the ARIA label to, there's the label. I'll be darned if I can't remember how I got the icon to show correctly. How do you like that? When you build something yourself and you can't remember how you built it. What am I saying? I do that all the time. Layout, typography. Oh my gosh, that's bugging me. Social media platform. I can't see it for the. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's the value. Okay, so here is a loop item. Here's where we had to go one step further, but GenerateBlocks gives us the means to do it. So value is an extra. So the social media platform, there we go. It is a checkbox. So instead of just providing the name, which is that, so it gives you this little bit right here. You can control a value and a label. So the value is the first part before the colon, then after the colon is the label. So because GenerateBlocks was kind of generous to give us that feature, we can choose whether we want to show the value or the label. And I don't know if that's a preview problem or if oh, it stayed. Okay. Label. Add. There we go. And so now it'll show you the name or the label. Yeah, there we go. I just had to update it correctly. So break that down for me. How is this working? Where's my, oh, I broke the freaking layout. It does this sometimes. So yeah, my reference over here to my links went away. So hang on just a second. 50 minutes. Holy cow. I'm sorry. Okay, let's see if that comes back now. Yeah, for some reason I lose that sometimes. Need to be a good community person and go report that, I guess. I'm not sure how to recreate it though. Okay, yeah. So this is the link destination. So again, loop item. This is the meta key we're grabbing. Team social media, URL. So since it's an array, we're starting at 0 and we're looking for that bit, and it'll just loop through accordingly. But remember, it has to match that post ID. So 165, 165, and 165. So there should be 3. Those are all Han Solo, and it's going to loop through those accordingly. Social media platform URL, loop item, key, social media platform URL. We're just not seeing that stuff happen, or that 0, 1, 2. But since it's a loop item, it's going to start at 0 and go through and find all of them and output their values accordingly. So that is, man, that's kind of a nerdy deep dive into sort of behind the scenes and how custom fields are stored and how they're related to their post types. I felt like that was kind of necessary before moving on to. I hope it informs the next video. And when we dig into creating a custom post type, we're going to use Ghostbusters this time. And we're going to create a catalog of Ghostbusters equipment. So we're going to create a new custom post type, set up our advanced custom fields, and we're going to use GenerateBlocks to try a couple of different ways. One, using the archive template. Maybe one, we use some various hooks and just use a query in general. I don't know. But yeah, we'll go from there. And I also want to take a look at maybe how we can do some of these things and save them to Generate Cloud for reuse later. I know that's been a thing, and something I haven't taken advantage of enough is creating my own components so I can reuse them later. But I don't know how that will jive, since query blocks are tied to things that already exist. And do you have to name them the same? Or I guess if you have just that kind of beginning pattern, you can reconnect everything. Anyway, maybe we'll find out. Maybe that'll be a third video. I'm not sure. I'm trying not to drag this out too long, but I've already gone 53 minutes, so whatever. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope that's not too in the weeds. I feel like it's one of those things that, like, the more you know, it might help you process and understand how you can get that data, that the data is there, whether you get it through PHP or GenerateBlocks or Elementor or whatever you're using. But we'll explore some different ways to fetch it and do stuff with it. So that's next time. Y'all have a great weekend, and please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Let me know things you'd like to see. Or is there something you're trying to do that you're stuck on, or maybe just some little squirrely thing that you're confused about as far as how it works and you'd like a little more insight to it? Let me know. Maybe I've been there and done that. If not, maybe we can look into it. You guys take care. Thank you.